Don't you think it's time for the city of Savannah to have an honest tourism management plan? That SCAD start paying its fair share? And the hospitality industry needs to increase its wages? The impacts of new growth should not cost residents. All local elected officials on council and commission should have term limits. We're working hard to accomplish these policies. We need your help. Please contribute whatever you can, $5, $10, or $20, by going to bettersavannah.org. Donate. Thank you.
Savannah needs additional tourism. Savannah needs additional tourism.
I mean, I appreciate our tourism community. I appreciate our hoteliers in particular.
The following show and broadcast is a production of Better Savannah, an independent expenditure committee dedicated to better policy outcomes at the state and local level. The views, opinions, and statements made by the hosts and/or their guests do not necessarily reflect the views of Better Savannah.
John?
Chuck?
What's going on, pal?
Oh, just getting ready to turn my phone down here in case,
Oh, yeah.
the yacht club calls with a Porsche dealer. I'll just make a note.
Well, appreciate everybody joining in. It is Thursday. It's October 6th. This is episode 99 of the Better Savannah podcast, which can only mean one thing, John. It means that episode 100 is right around the corner. We'll hope that you are going to be able to join us Monday, October 10th, this coming Monday, at Front Porch Improv Theater. All right. We will be having a live show for the first time ever. It's definitely an experiment for John and I. We've kind of built this thing, whatever it is, over the last few years. And now this is our 3-ish year anniversary. We started in September of 2019. So it's our 3-year-ish anniversary. And it's our 100th show. Tickets are on Eventbrite, and I will make sure that everybody has a chance. If you haven't already, get your tickets so we have an idea of how full the room's going to be and how we're going to set everything up. Part of it it's free. Definitely you should know it's free. Part of the show is probably going to be live during the panel town hall. I'm going to talk about that in just a second. But we're going to record the show, and next Thursday, we'll do a complete rebroadcast of our live show. It's going to be somewhere between, between two ferns and Meet the Press, but not quite not quite either one. We just put out last night. As part of the show, we're gonna have what we're gonna call an interactive town hall. So you'll have John and I up there with the esteemed Senator Lester Jackson, who's completing out his term of 20 years here now in the legislature, and Alderwoman Keisha Gibson Carter. Just kind of two of our favorite guests over the last 100 times of doing this, and that's kind of where we're at. So get your tickets. We'll hope to see everybody there on Monday at Front Porch Improv on Victory Drive. So any other exciting things about our live show coming up, John?
Well,
you excited?
Yeah, if someone wants to go and forgot to reserve a ticket, can they just walk up and get in?
I mean, I'm sure we'll let them, but I mean, I would prefer to have everybody register so we have an idea. I will say like there's about 60, maybe 58 tickets left through the registration app. So, if those fill up before Monday, then we might not have room for people, but we'll see. I think I'm expecting a decent sized crowd, and I just think it'll be an intimate conversation. I also think people will come without having registered. But again, please register. The link is in the comments through Eventbrite. It's free. There'll be a drinks, beer and wine, soft drinks, popcorn through the Front Porch Improv. No, there's not going to be a magic show, but they'll be able to provide all of that. And I'm hoping it's going to be a great experience for both the crowd that comes and for us. It's just kind of a celebration of everything we've tried to do, and certainly everything I think we have actually had a good amount of impact on.
Yeah, so. I'm chuckling here, Chuck, because you used the word experimental, and that just fits us perfectly, because this whole project vis-a-vis Better Savannah was an
100%. 100%.
And we've hit some home runs, we've hit some doubles, we've grounded out and had a few double plays. So it's baseball season. The Braves are division champions, so I'm going to use those metaphors for tonight. But it'll be very interesting to me to see how whether there's 440 or 100 people, seeing how this goes is going to be really interesting and illustrative and helpful to what we're trying to do. You and me, buddy.
Hey, regardless, we're gonna have some fun. We'll kind of have a riff session with you and I, and then we'll have what I hope to be a very enlightening, kind of informative, interactive town hall with two of our favorite elected officials and leaders, here in Savannah, especially kind of representing two different generations. Lester is kind of the statesman, and of course, Keisha is Alderwoman Keisha Gibson Carter, leading a new revolution here in Savannah. So, I'm excited to talk to both of them. I always am. And again, I hope you guys will join us Monday. Get your tickets through the link below, eventbrite.com. The link's in the comments.
What time's
we're going to start like right around 7. right at like 7:05, because I wanna get in a decent riff session with you and I wanna have like at least 30 to 45 minutes of this interactive town hall panel that we're gonna have with these two leaders. Once again, if you missed it or just joined the show, on Monday, October 10th, Front Porch Improv, we'll have Senator Lester Jackson, Alderwoman Keisha Gibson Carter live with us as our guests during that show.
Let's remind people where the Front Porch is. It's right on Victory
Front
Drive.
Porch Improv is 210 West Victory Drive. It's directly across from the SCAD development. And, you can park kind of anywhere, in that neighborhood. Starland's the lower edge of Starland, right above Ardsley. It's very walkable,
It's basically
that neighborhood.
A football field west of 520 Wings, which I love.
Not even a whole football field. Yeah, half a football field even. Yeah, it's 2 blocks west of 520 Wings at Bull and Victory. So, again, it's right at kind of Barnard and Victory, 7 p.m. Get there and bring a friend, and we'll have a great time.
Yeah, and we'll have you safely home by 9 o'clock.
That's the goal. Reflecting kind of just over the last couple of years of doing this with you, we've had this whole sort of coalition, that has built up, kind of just around progressive policy and progressive issues, local social issues. We're hoping to have a good, attendance from most of these groups at our show next week. But our friends at ATR Network, RG, Julius, Torre, everybody over there, they do a lot of programming. But they're the rabble and the watchdogs, especially the watchdogs, will really give you good, insightful viewpoints from those other than John and I's.
Yeah, and these were organic occurrences
in the last couple of years. Yeah,
and it's it's one of the more encouraging and hopeful occurrences in the local landscape of politics and policy, Chuck. The Savannian, another great example of breakout journalism that just had to find a new path, and they found it, and they've done a great job. The Current is extremely in depth and worthy and worthwhile. I want to shout out to Eric Curl's Savannah Agenda, which is painstakingly put together and so helpful understanding what's going on at the Zoning Board of Appeals or the MPC. You kind of get all you need to know on progress and development from Eric's Savannah Agenda. That's a Facebook page. And want to shout out to Erin Clarkson, SavannahFirstTimer.com. And boy, does she have a following. And she doesn't sugarcoat stuff. And she manages to present wonderful insight and advice to people who are coming to Savannah for the first time. And it's not this album of the Tourism Leadership Council or industrial spin. It's straight up what to avoid, what to definitely take in. She does a fantastic job with it. Also, Leonard Small.
Unity in the Community, Political Action Committee page. Tell It Like It Is. He started to do some kind of random weekday episodes there too, which are very nice. I think the closer we get to elections, we'll get even more. It's always good to see his content. He's obviously a longtime civil rights leader, 40, 50 years, obviously, but one of the leaders of the Weeping Time Coalition to save that property, which we've been very involved and supportive of. Not to mention the two alderwomen, one of which will be on our show on Monday, Keisha Gibson Carter, on ATR. Monday, she does Candidly Keisha, which is just a great public access show. And then Tuesdays, Alicia Miller Blakely on her page does For Us By Us, which is a great podcast that, about half the time you're going to get local views on politics and policy. So just really good things to keep up with. You can connect on all of those platforms, especially here on Facebook if you're watching this on Facebook. But if you're listening to us on one of the podcast apps, you can find most of these sources on the Facebook and YouTube as well. Last week, John, we had Pat Gunn and Mark, the other member, the PR manager of the coalition, to change the name on the square for Calhoun Square.
Susie King Taylor.
And if you watched our show, it kind of ended on, a real positive note with Pat reporting that the city manager, had kind of assured them that it was going to be on the agenda. Well, the next meeting, this is one of those, go out 52 weeks in a year and there's 2 meetings a month. So a couple times a year, there's like 3 weeks between meetings. So, we haven't had a meeting and we're not going to have another meeting rather for 2 more weeks, or rather 1 more week next Thursday on October 13th. Yeah. So, that's right after our live show. A couple days after, I'm sure we'll talk about this again on Monday at the live show briefly, but show up, put some pressure on your alderman. According to that coalition, pretty much every alderman is given support at one point or another. And remember, this is to change the name of Calhoun Square, one of the
infamous
foremost promoters of slavery, to Susie King Taylor, one of the best, names we could replace that with. So that's coming up on October 13th, John.
Yep. Yeah, it's right around the corner. Hey, listen, I forgot to shout out Jason Bible and the Trainwrecks for
always
loaning us that fabulous music bed that we use so frequently, Song for Sally. And I want people to know Better Savannah, after 3 years, has 3,761 followers. That puts us in the small pond that is Savannah in a pretty good position. I think Savannah Pure Politics has more followers.
Not by much. It's not just a follower count either. It's always the engagement,
Yeah, and I was going to say Savannah Pure Politics can't make up their mind on many issues, and we're pretty definitive. So anyway, what else you got?
Well, John, one of our best performing ads ever, is this one right here, and I have a feeling we're gonna have to recreate it with some of the new stuff you shot today that I put at the top of the show. But I'll just play this real quick. Broughton Street is a mess, guys. It's really bad. Let's play this and we'll come right back. I always love that clock at the end. It's just a great touch.
Well, look at it. It's a year and a half later, and they've done 3 more blocks, and that leaves 5 blocks to go. So they're barely at the halfway point.
So, John, you went on an expedition the other day.
I needed to get a little exercise, so I walked up and down Broughton Street. Yes, I did, Chuck.
And I mean, walking up and down Broughton Street, that's got to be, quite a task in and of itself. But
it's a maze.
It is a huge maze. But, your mission was to really get the impact yourself and try to talk to some business owners or managers and just get a feel, right?
Yeah, well, my wife's salon on Broughton Street, where they haven't got to yet, she said, go find out what's going on. Are they coming down here or not? Because we hear conflicting stories and all sorts of horror stories. So I thought, well, for Better Savannah and for B Street Salon, let me walk up and down the street and assess it myself, talk to a few retailers. That's what I did.
What did you find out?
Ooh, a lot of unhappy campers. And I shouldn't be, let me retract that. It's a very dire, uh, on edge community of retailers. The number of now vacant businesses struck me, Chuck, as higher, much higher than it was, pre-COVID. And I'm sure maybe some of that was from COVID, but uh,
Even with the Ben Carter factor as well, or
what do you mean the Ben Carter factor?
when you say bigger vacancies than pre-COVID, what about bigger vacancies than pre-Ben Carter? Certainly a lot more than that.
Oh, I understand the context. Yeah, we're on a low side of that equation pre Ben Carter. Um, here's they're struggling. The businesses, and I talked to three. I'm not going to name them, but they pointed me to three or four other businesses that are taking a much more vocal and proactive position with the city, and they're basically saying, "Listen, COVID set us back. Your delay on this whole project then set us back even further. And now, if we don't have a good holiday season this year, a bunch of us are going to have to close up." So I think it's just not only frustrating but unfair. And I'll tell you why I think it's unfair. Um, there was some talk about possibly offsetting some of these businesses' losses for this project's delay, and there's no argument that this project is a year and a half behind schedule and is only halfway done. That's not up for debate. Those are the facts, and anybody at the city would have to nod their head and say, yeah, that's where we're at. Well, the equivocation of old plumbing or electrical boxes and the standard sort of problems that this project has encountered are understandable, but that still does not bring you up to halfway done, a year and a half behind schedule. So there was some scuttlebutt on the street that the city's risk management department was going to meet with individual retailers and possibly give them some monetary relief for the impact to their bottom lines. But two store owners said, no, that request was denied outright. We didn't even get a chance to get into it and negotiate or discuss it. So
at what point does, because look, if the project was 90 days over budget or overrun, rather, if it was 120 days late, I think
even 6 months, Chuck.
you'd understand, oh yeah, 6 months, okay, get over it, right? But we're now at 18 months with potentially no end in sight, really.
Yeah, well, there was this dichotomy of the project's going to get cut short at Abercorn. They're not going to go from Abercorn to East Broad, which the original project, the $17 million approval, was to go from MLK to East Broad, the entire
length.
The entire length. So, given all the major construction and management disasters along the way in the first 4 or 5 blocks, the word was they're just going to throw the towel in. The city's going to give up and stop at Abercorn and not go the other 5 or 6 blocks. Well, there's another through line or storyline that says that, well, that was only phase 1, and Artisa, ATRAS is the construction company. Their representative told me, we're done at Abercorn. We're out. And the city is going to rebid what's now going to be called phase 2, which is Abercorn to East Broad. Well, that isn't even on the radar screen yet. I'm thinking the city's working on it quietly behind the scenes.
How do you quietly work on an art? Because like what John is saying for our listeners and our viewers is that an RFP is a request for proposal. It's how you bid out contracts from the government. And so, we are, as we record this, John, less than 13 months away from city elections. So at some point between now and then, they're going to put out a bid, another multi-million dollar bid, on this project after already blowing, some 17 million odd dollars.
Well, Chuck, it's a good question, and it's going to require a little bit more research.
Sure.
But I'm not certain that all 17 million has been spent from
That's
MLK.
possible. That's
to
possible.
Abercorn. It's a good question. We'll get the answer to it. And not to expand this prematurely, but I told you earlier that my recollection was that in this streetscape redevelopment project, Bay Street and River Street were part. My memory is that those two other streets were lumped together.
Yeah, I think it's like up to 20 million each street.
So yeah, I need to get my head around and my hands around what the original promises and commitments of the city were and where they stand today. The point is, the official word from the contractor is the first phase will be finished by Thanksgiving, the kickoff of the holiday retail season. Chuck, we can look at.
I mean, that's 5.5, 6 weeks away. That's 6 weeks away.
Yeah, show some of.
Let's show some of these videos, and
and you decide for yourself.
Again, if you listen to this podcast, flop, click over to YouTube or Facebook and watch these videos. You tell us whether you think this project's going to be done in 6 weeks from today.
That was
I love that. I love that last one with the hole in the road closed sign and the businesses are open during construction.
It's rough around the edges down there, man. It's like navigating a corn maze and the point at Rincon at low tide. There's a lot of obstacles and turns and narrow chutes that to cross the street, you can only go single file. Anyway, it's a disaster. And Chuck, I was the same people. The project manager is the city of Savannah. I mean, they're self-managing.
Ultimately, yes. Yes.
And these are the same people that are telling us that they're going to manage probably $150 to $200 million canal district.
Yes.
Redevelopment.
Yes.
I don't have a lot of confidence in them
at all. At all. We were watching, and I don't have this to bring into our show tonight, but we were watching a little bit yesterday or the day before. I think it was yesterday. There was some Springfield Canal, Bilbo Canal development meeting. Alicia Miller Blakely was filming, and Alderwoman Alicia Miller Blakely and Alderwoman Bernetta Lanier was asking a lot of the questions. And I mean, basically, the parts that we could hear most audibly, we're talking about like, well, we're going to buy your property at fair market value, or we'll just use eminent domain to take it from you. And it's just like, how much property is necessary for this Springfield Canal Splosh project that we were talking about?
Yeah.
Help me understand that.
Well, but before we try to understand that, we've seen the footage you just played, which was shot yesterday, and clearly we're only halfway down Broughton Street, and we have that condition on the ground, and the promise that this will be done by Thanksgiving. None of that, none of that makes sense or is believable. Now, I'll remind you, Chuck, the arena. The arena uh, managed to open on time, but without any parking and without Gwinnett Street and Styles finished. So,
And by all accounts, that's not been a complete success in terms of what that did to, the logistics of the arena, the transportation in and out, and certainly that neighborhood is feeling the stresses of that because it wasn't really executed as well as it should have been.
yeah, I guess my point is this council, who has to own these conditions, has the arena rushed to open without proper planning given to the surrounding niceties of parking and sidewalks and streets, kind of a disaster. And now Broughton Street, which is the ultimate uh, screw up. I was going to use a different word. And now the Canal District, they're frothing at buying up these people's property in West Chatham to solidify the master plan for the Canal District, which is really another tourist enhancement. And Chuck, it's just too much. And I hopefully we'll talk about the concept of too much a little later in the show. But
Well, I mean, we've been saying that since the conversations at the Bean and the lady that came in to help us decipher, the lady who wrote the book. I mean, we've had that, but I do think this too much is a good mantra.
It's a simple two-word expression for what many people are now coming to agree with and realize, that we've got too much SCAD, we've got too much tourism, we've got too much violent crime, we've got too many trolleys, so too many, too much STVRs. I mean, the cumulative effects of all these sectors is beginning to gel in the everyday taxpayer resident's mind that, yeah, we're changing Savannah rapidly, and I'm not certain that it's a good change overall. So too much. Is all progress good? That's what we're being told by the staff of the city and the city manager and the majority on council, that progress is good no matter what. Well, a lot of people are beginning to disagree with that. And that correlates, Chuck, to what we're hearing anecdotally in our everyday travels and traverses with the general public. And they're saying, this council probably ought to be replaced entirely like the last council.
No, it's just definitely like the meet the new boss, same as the old boss.
Yeah.
Eddie DeLoach's council, his majority especially, Julian Bill, what's his name, the banker, Foster and Carol, they went around and did their best to sell it. They sold what they were doing, and the public didn't buy it. I had said, I kind of felt like, this Broughton Street project is what I would call one of many anchors around anyone, especially in the council majority, trying to get reelected. You've got the questions on the arena. You've got really a pure debacle at the police department. This is, outside of the arena, this is like one of the largest contracts, construction contracts the city's overseeing, and it's a complete failure on Broughton with no end in sight. When they rebid out for going from Abercorn or Drayton to East Broad, it's going to be many more millions in another couple of years. Not to mention that if it's true that they're going to do Bay Street and River Street next, boy, man, I pity
Pity the fool.
the businesses on those streets that think it's going to be anything short of the nightmare that it's been at Broughton Street, John.
Another very poignant observation that a store owner on Broughton Street made to me yesterday, Chuck, is they said, this definitely was a tourism intended project, and I can tell you this with them talking to me. I don't see the locals anymore. That their local residential customer base most of it has gone someplace else. The design district,
Starland,
wherever they can in Midtown. People just they didn't like the crowds of tourists, but when you compound that with a corn maze to get from business to business, it's really too much. So I'm very sympathetic to those people on Broughton Street. And here's the kicker. I know we have to move on. There is an emerging coalition of retailers that are planning a class action lawsuit against the city for the negative impacts to their businesses from the project.
Well, this is like a common occurrence, this poor resident constituent in the South Side that has this, huge, canal drainage issue next to her property. Like, it's like if the only way to get something from this city, if you're not in the favor, is to really sue them, and that's not a great way to, that's what all starts. My favorite movies, Remember the Titans. Attitude reflects leadership. The leadership of this city has, largely done its best to maintain status quo when it comes to how we do business in this town as a government, but paper it over with the most poll tested Democratic Party talking points, ever. You know what I mean? Like, this is a very highly, I'd imagine after this term is over, if we really opened up the books, I mean, there's several millions of dollars being spent on the nature of the PR and communications platform that the city government apparatus has built for this mayor.
A minute ago, you talked about the former council that pretty much all got voted out, led by Eddie DeLoach. And you and I were talking about this, Chuck, and Eddie was a plain-spoken, straight-up guy.
It's putting it nicely.
Well, I like Eddie.
I do too. He's a nice guy.
But he was about as authentic as you can be. And one store owner told me yesterday, the mayor is everywhere on social media, but he's never set foot in my store. And nobody knows Dietrich Leggett. So this majority on council has embraced and relied on a social media spin factor that the prior council didn't even have a clue about. So,
well, this is what we keep hearing. The mayor and his people are everywhere when it comes time to cutting a ribbon on a Truman Linear bike path part 18, or passing out hamburgers or giving out whatever, but when it comes time to issues that the government has to decide or work on that are painful, often we're told well, yeah, Alderman Keisha Miller or Gibson Carter and Alicia Miller Blakely answered my calls, or I got feedback from them, but I haven't heard from the mayor. I haven't heard back from my alderman. I haven't heard back from, the city manager, because again, like, it's a tough deal. It's a tough issue. How can the mayor and this administration not be all over Broughton Street business owners 18 months overrun? If we're such a pro-tourism government, you're really hurting a lot of your businesses in the quote-unquote tourism market.
This one shop owner said the mayor sure travels a lot and is up in Washington, D.C. and all over the place. And I just wish he would travel into my store. Bam. Yeah. There you go.
It's great. Well, let's update another story we've been following on recently.
Barnard Street.
There's in 2018, there was this report from the National Park Service, that basically illustrated
it was a warning.
Savannah's National Landmark Historic District
status in jeopardy.
Was potentially in jeopardy soon, right?
Right.
So, this got brought to our attention by, another downtown resident, but there's been a lot of interest in this particular development. It's on 336 Barnard. It's just off of Pulaski Square. And it has to do with an issue called trust and tithing lots, especially like lots that are kind of facing the back lane, right off of a square. Right. Everybody who's anybody in policy and politics in this area is for the Oglethorpe plan. Like, John, have you in 30 years heard a politician run against the Oglethorpe plan here?
No.
You know what I mean? So, like, everybody claims that they are for the Oglethorpe plan, but more and more in the last 10 years, because of the how we structure the MPC, with the county getting half the appointments and the city getting half the appointments, there are things that slip through the cracks. So this development on 336 Barnard, it's like a, behemoth 3-story, with a rooftop, kind of McMansion that's going to be settled on a little tiny, back-facing lot off of the lane.
Let me describe it a different way. I'm just 3 blocks away. Essentially, what they want to do and have gotten tentative approval to do, is to build where the carriage house sits at the lane at the back of the property. They have applied to build a structure that's larger in mass than the front property,
the main house. If you've ever walked along this portion of Barnard, these are those like 6 micro apartments. Like, they're super tiny. They're probably super affordable for long term, or were. They're probably Airbnbs now. But somebody is buying it, or bought it already and wants to build this, just big behemoth, structure that's bigger than the main house, like Don just said. So a lot of people have been fighting it. And there's been some back and forths. I think eventually the issue itself is going to get settled in court. But this document got sent to us today. And I want to share my screen, put it up here. I'm going to have to blow it up, I know. But this is a official letterhead, okay? United States Department of the Interior, National Park Service, Atlanta Federal Center, 1924 Building, 100 Alabama Street, Atlanta, Georgia. All right?
Yep, September 26th.
This is dated September 26th, 2 weeks ago.
Yep.
Okay? It's addressed to Leah Michalak, Director of Historic Preservation, MPC. And I'm just going to read a couple of bits of this. All right? And, I'll find a way to post this on our Facebook page later tonight. All right? Dear Ms. Michalak, the National Park Service is eager to re-engage with the Metropolitan Planning Commission and other interested parties regarding the ongoing health of the Savannah National Historic Landmark District NHL. The NPS remains an eager partner in the thoughtful management of this remarkable place and is concerned about several proposed projects within the NHL district, including recent approval of new construction at 336 Barnard Street that negative impacts the ready discernibility of the Savannah Town Plan. Savannah Town Plan basically being another name for like the Oglethorpe Plan, okay? As is widely appreciated, the Savannah Town Plan is integral to the Savannah National Historic Landmark District and therefore central to the city's historic identity, its ongoing cultural and economic vitality, and is an irreplaceable part of American history. I mean, this is strong language, okay?
This is the federal government.
This is the federal government informing our local government their position, okay? The city of Savannah has done a commendable job enacting measures to protect the plan, specifically language in the Historic District Ordinance that mandates development shall preserve or reconstruct historic war pattern of streets and lanes within the Oglethorpe Plan area. Other elements of the Savannah Town Plan, such as the truss and tithing blocks and squares, are not specifically addressed in the city's zoning ordinance. Yet these elements are also essential features of the plan, and each serves a specific purpose. To maintain the NHL integrity of the district, the discernibility of the plan must be retained so residents and visitors are able to identify all the features that compose the Oglethorpe Plan. Elements that include truss lots, tithing blocks, squares, and streets and lanes. So this goes on. This goes on. Yes, it's 336 Barnard. We covered it a couple of weeks back on our show. As some residents spoke up in front of the NPC about it. They had another meeting after this letter, and I don't think that meeting went very well for this issue. So I just want to scroll down towards the bottom here. And I just, this is, if you work in corporate America or you work in a government office or, like any serious place and you have to do communication, email, you understand that you can't just like threaten people or tell people like how you feel, right? So I just want to read this section and I want people to, listen between the lines. This is the second of this is basically the ending main paragraph of the letter, a little bit of the ways down. Okay. As you are aware, the National Park Service National Historic Landmarks Program is tasked with monitoring the condition of landmarks to identify those that exhibit damage or face threats to the integrity of their resources. Based on the groundwork established in the Integrity and Condition Assessment, Savannah National Historic Landmark District 2018, and the accompanying memo titled Health of the Savannah NHL District, we are heartened by this pause for important conversations to avoid compounding loss of integrity and to ensure the continued health of the landmark. Toward that end, NPS NHL staff can contribute technical assistance in the form of short presentations on a number of relevant subjects, including cumulative effects, the loss of integrity, the value of a cultural landscape report to document the important spatial interrelationships amongst the landscape, environment, and Savannah Town Plan, and strategies for updating NHL district documentation. We hope these might be welcome additions to the ongoing conversations initiated on the 30th of this month. Moreover, if desired, we'd be pleased to visit with you and members of the Savannah community in the coming months to revisit our common goal of protecting the unique qualities that make the Savannah National Historic Landmark District a place of national importance. And, I don't know what better way to say it other than this is the federal government telling this town and this county's and our NPC to tone it down. Figure it out.
It's another example, Chuck, of too much. This is too much development allowance and breaking of the rules to accommodate this project. It's another nick in the fabric that makes Savannah great. So I'm hoping this gets distributed, significantly and widely, and that people will see it as a warning, which clearly it is, and that more sensible and manageable decisions will be made, and not ignore this important warning.
100%, man. You know,
It's what people are saying. We're losing Savannah, and we're losing it not all at once. We're losing it bit by bit by bit. STVRs, SCAD expansions, you name it, tourism expansions, a bus system, a phantom bus system running around town carrying more passengers than our mass transit system, trolleys, woo girls. There's a carrying capacity for everything. It's a physics deal, and we're stretching the fabric so thin it's about to tear, and that's what a lot of people are now coming to that conclusion, that maybe all progress is not good progress. Stop selling us that all progress is good progress. To go back to one of our fundamental tenets, if all progress is good, why do we still have 27% poverty in the city of Savannah after, 2.5 decades of progress?
100%.
Yeah.
And I mean, I wanted to talk about this T-Splost article that Adam just put out, but I don't even feel like it anymore. Like it's the same thing with this T-Splost. Like all these projects we keep financing are capacity building projects for things that are problems that we don't need more of,
Yeah.
And the same governments who have overseen historic property tax raises, especially on those who rent, which is what we keep talking about. We care about the working people. They're asking you to go tax yourselves at every place you purchase goods and services in Chatham County, another penny,
Chuck,
this November.
If that was an affordable housing splost, it would pass easily because people realize that there's a problem, and I don't mind paying that extra penny to solve a critical problem like that. But T-Splost, without pulling it all apart, is a duplication of a lot of SPLOST funding, a lot of SPLOST projects. We've pointed that out in prior shows. It's a very covert, left-handed way to fund the Canal District, which, by the way, no one voted on. This Canal District was a backroom plan between the tourism industry and the power brokers of this town, and it was never approved by the voters. But once this brings me to the Civic Center, which is going to be a subject of a future show, and I've been asked to possibly get involved in a forum on this, and that is what to do with the Civic Center site. And the Urban Land Institute said the best thing you can do is rebuild Albert Square, get the National Park Service, which we just talked about, kind of off your back a little bit, do something right to preserve the Oglethorpe plan, and build some retail and residential, because the projected recurring revenue taxes from that development of the Civic Center site would be maybe $20 or $25 million a year. This is a council that doesn't even roll back the millage rate all the way. They pick your pocket for a little bit on the way to the rollback, and then tell you it's the lowest since 1987. But
what were property values? This is what's always missing on that argument. What were the property values in 1987?
Exactly,
I
Chuck.
mean, 1/300th of what they are now, 1/100th of what
The
they are now.
$1 million house was $175,000.
Right. So when the mayor says, "Oh, this is the lowest millage rate since 1987," like,
Yeah, tax me
it's
on
like
my
a Back to the
value.
Future. It's like a Back to the Future movie, man. Like, dude,
Yeah.
the life in Savannah has nothing to do now with what it did in 1987. It's
Yeah,
just not a fair comparison.
it's almost like the county fair with the 3 cups and a pea, and they scramble them all around, and you never know where it is.
Keaton wants to know if there's any update on the city wanting to revise the alcohol laws. I heard about that meeting. I really wanted to make it. I talked to a couple of people. I know some people who went there. We'll find an update soon. I don't think there's any major revisions proposed yet, but you never know with these people.
Well,
Like I just said a couple of minutes ago, John, we're 13 months away from a city elections. Major moves does not seem like a good play anytime soon.
well, I'm glad Keaton asked about alcohol licensing. It gives me an opening here to lay the marker down, and I've seen it on TV. I've seen it in person, and it is such an utter injustice and waste of time for city council to approve liquor licenses. Any city worth its salt has a committee.
But won't you think of the morality, John? Probably
Yeah.
one of my favorite, of the limited Dietrich Leggett council meetings. When he said to that poor woman who was trying to open up a wine school, I have to think about the morality, like, oh my God.
Yeah. So the, the someone needs to campaign in this next election cycle on removing alcohol licensing final approvals from city council and get it out of the politics and the morality of it, and let it be done by an appointed panel that is
Or
apolitical.
administrative staff, even,
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah. Well,
I don't know.
they do the fundamental work and make a recommendation to this alcohol board, and they approve it. Bam. We just added 15% more time to city council's meetings so that they can talk about more important stuff like term limits or impact fees or pilot fees or tourism management. But no, we're busy beating down a woman who moved down here, a black woman from New York, and cashed in her savings to open a wine school. And we're going to get in her way and be morality police on please, get out of that business. That's does not belong in front of city council.
Well, to complete the circle and start, and finish where we started, this would be a great question to come ask at our interactive town hall show next Monday, October 10th, guys. This Monday coming up here in a couple of days, we're going to have our 100th podcast recording. It's going to be live. And we're going to have 2 of Savannah's best leaders right there with us, Senator Lester Jackson and Alderwoman Keisha Gibson Carter. So definitely get your tickets. The registration link is in the comments. It's on Eventbrite. You can click that and go grab a registered seat. There's still plenty of room, but we're expecting a decent sized crowd. And, we want to see you guys there and come interact with us and ask some questions like that, because I'm not up to date on that specific. I know they had a couple of meetings on Wednesday about it yesterday. So
we'll know more and we'll address it in the next show.
We'll know more. Hopefully we can address it on Monday on the next show. And, hopefully we'll be seeing you guys there at Front Porch Improv on Monday at 7 p.m. If you come a little early, we'll be there to chat, and then we'll get the show started and have a great time.
It's experimental. Right. Show us some love. We love you. We depend on you. We do this for you and for the community. So do this for us and come out and spend an hour with us.
Send the link. It's on our, it's on the events on here. You can send out the a link for tickets directly. Go sign up yourself and bring a friend, and we'll have a great time. It's free. but bring a couple bucks for sodas and popcorn to support Front Porch Improv Comedy Community Theater. And we'll look forward to seeing you guys there.
Good show, Chuck.
Thanks so much, buddy. I'll talk to you guys then. See you on Monday.
I appreciate our tourism community. I appreciate our hoteliers.